This is a real life experience of why having trauma insurance is an important part of your financial plan. James is married to Alison and they have 2 children. In July 2011, an unexpected event occurred. James, talk us through what happened.
Thanks, Stu. Well, on the 29th of July, it was a cold winter's morning, Saturday morning, and I went for a surf, and I got a really bad headache in the surf. I thought, oh, it must just be the cold water. So I got out of the cold water, and I had to take my son to rugby. So we got everybody in the car, and off rugby we went. And I'm the coach there, and this headache just got worse and worse and worse until half time. I went up to one of the other dads and I said, look, you know, you might need to take over because this headache is just killing me. Anyway, I sort of like had a bit of a stumble, and one of the mums who's got a medical background came up, and she looked at me in the eye and she said to me, look, I'm getting you an ambulance. And usually what I'd do is I'd probably, you know, laugh that off and say, you know, don't worry about it, it'll get better. But for some peculiar reason, I said, look, you know, yeah, go and get me an ambulance. And I knew something was wrong at that stage. Anyway, I got shuffled off, and I had my head down, and all I could see was the footy game happening in like a bit of a silhouette actually in the background. Until basically the rugby game finished and my little son came up and he was pretty worried. You could see that he was worried. I could see my wife was worried. So the ambulance came. They put me in the ambulance and took me off to Manly Hospital. And at that stage there I thought, look, I hope it was a little bit serious, but not too serious because of all the hoo-ha that was happening. So I got to Manly Hospital and they gave me a CAT scan, put me back in the ambulance and said, you know, there's something a little serious. You've had probably a subarachnoid hemorrhage, and off to Royal North Shore I went. So I got to Royal North Shore Hospital and people at the emergency were waiting for me. In fact, the head of emergency, Dr. Mark Willett, was there. And he said, Walker-Powell, we've been waiting for you for an hour, what took you? And I said, oh Mark, I actually came as fast as I could. Anyway, so I was waiting to get another CT scan, and I said to Mark, listen, look, I'm going on a surfing trip in 3 weeks' time. What are my chances? He said, where are you off to? And I said, oh, the Tello Islands. And he said, oh, well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is, I'm going there in 4 weeks' time, and you're staying here in 3 weeks' time. You've got no chance of going. So I spent the next 2 weeks in hospital, and that was about it.
So Alison, tell us what went through your mind when all this was happening.
Well, initially it was obviously very worrying. You don't know what's, you know, the hospital is just constantly doing tests and a lot of waiting around. It was just really waiting for answers and not enjoying seeing him in pain, and just wanting answers and wanting to know what's next. So really just being at the hands of the medical staff at the hospital, and yeah, so just a lot of waiting and a lot of looking for the answers.
So James, how long were you away from work?
Well, I was only away probably about 2.5, 3 weeks, the time I was in hospital. Admittedly, you know, after 2 weeks lying in a bed, I was ready to climb the walls of Royal North Shore Hospital. But it took me quite a while, probably maybe 3 to 4 months to get back to full capacity. It took a lot out of you. You were very tired and very sore because the blood clot, I guess, basically up in the brain, it dissolves down, a lot of it dissolves down your spinal cord. So I was in a bit of pain there, so I couldn't drive. So my capacity to actually earn income was somewhat limited, and I was very lucky to have my wife to actually drive me around for 3 months. So yeah, I was probably sort of like off work for, you know, 2, 3 weeks, but all up around about 3 months.
So Alison, this major trauma's happened to your husband. What was the feeling that you were feeling at this time when all these medicals are now telling you that he's had this major trauma occur?
Well, again, it's just wanting answers from the medical staff, from the doctor. I often wouldn't see the doctor because the doctor would come to see James when it wasn't visiting hours, so then it was always me asking questions, or what did he say? You're really looking for what's the answer in the end, or what can we expect next? Is there anything to expect next? Which we were lucky enough to be told, no, there's not. This is just a waiting game, and once this blood has dissipated, just go back to normal life. But it was really just a lot of waiting for answers and to see if James, once he came home, how long the recovery would be.
And I suppose if he was ever going to be able to recover fully as well.
Well, that's it. I mean, it does start you wondering then, what if, we were lucky, and what if it wasn't quite so lucky, and what if he could only work part-time, or what if he couldn't work, and what would we do with the business? And as I said, we were lucky that way, but we just didn't know when he came home, and he was very tired for quite a long time, how incapacitated he would be in regards to getting back to full-time work.
Mm. So you spoke a little bit about the recovery, so is there anything you've had to change in regards to recovery?
No, I really can't say that life's changed too much for me. I'm still coaching footy, I'm still going surfing, I'm still trying to be a good husband. So, no, I don't think anything's actually really changed for me, other than the fact I do actually appreciate insurance a lot more than I did previously.
So with that, James, why did you take out your insurance policy in the first place?
Well, actually, that's probably a good question, Stu. Look, I thought that if I was to recommend trauma insurance to clients, I had insurance myself. But if I knew I was going to claim on the insurance that I did, I would have probably taken out 20 times the amount or 10 times the amount. So it's pretty funny that out of all my clients, I did have a few claims last year with other clients, but I was one of the claimants, and I guess the thing is that if I knew that I was going to claim on the insurance, I probably would have taken out 10 times the amount.
So what did you do with the insurance payout?
Well, luckily, things weren't as drastic for me as some other clients of mine. There was always a gap between private health insurance and the medical bills, so a few medical bills that we had to pay for the 2 weeks I was in hospital. Having said that, it makes you think how life's so short, and we took the kids to Disneyland and to California and had a good old Christmas holidays with some of the insurance payout. We did the backyard, that was pretty much overdue to be done, and the rest I've thrown off the mortgage.
So has this changed the way you view trauma insurance?
Well, yeah, it has. I mean, I guess, rather than sort of like a descriptive amount that I always sort of like used to recommend my client to say, look, what's the minimum amount you should take? Rather than talking about the minimum amount, talking about the maximum amount the client will take. I know that works, and those clients who may not have actually had trauma insurance in the past, I'm certainly making a great effort to actually get to them and talk about my story and how insurance works for me.
So away from insurance and financial planning, the event, has this changed the way you view life in general?
Look, I think you'd have to say to a certain extent, yes. I mean, I must admit, I've got a beautiful wife and a great lifestyle already. Has it changed many things? I think you get to appreciate those around you a bit more, for sure. Certainly, appreciate what my role is as an advisor. I know that certainly the insurance side of it, I feel a little bit more sort of like responsible for my clients' well-being, to make sure that they have enough insurance. But as far as general life is concerned, maybe a bit more serving, but that's about it.
So in summing up, with your business, I know you said before that a few of your clients last year actually had to claim on their trauma insurance. So a final word from you, not just as a claimant, but as a person looking out on life, but also what is it you recommend for your clients in the future?
Well, I had 4 instances last year where trauma insurance came into the fray. There was certainly my claim. I had another client whose wife had a breast cancer and she claimed, and hers was treatable and she recovered from breast cancer. Had a guy that I went to school with who wasn't a client, but he was a bit overweight and he claimed on his trauma insurance, and he gave me a call after I got back from hospital. We had a bit of a chat about his experience, and what it did for him was he took about 6 months off, paid some school fees, and that allowed him to actually lose some weight from 120 kg to 85, what he is now. But possibly the saddest part is the 4th person, who's a friend of actually a brother-in-law of a good friend of mine, who had a stroke around a similar time to mine, and he was just recently released from hospital. He can't talk, he can't see, and the email I got from my friend was to say, look, the best thing is that the school that his kids have gone to have raised $350,000 for the family. And I thought to myself, well, that's great, but I wonder how much insurance he had. And for those people who donated that $350,000, I wonder how many of those actually took out trauma insurance for themselves. So if I was to sum it up, I don't think it's a negotiable product. I think it's a necessity for everybody with a family, if not all responsibilities, that they should take out some type of insurance.